What is up, good people? Today we're doing a bit of a different style video. I'll be taking you guys on a drive along in the Axela so that you can just get to see firsthand how it is to drive the car, and yeah, just take you guys through a typical drive on a Nairobi road, Mombasa Road to be exact. We'll do around 30 to 40 kilometers, and if you are new to driving, I'll also be throwing in some tips that I use just to stay safe when on the highway, and yeah, just any other rant that I might think of. So let's begin. It's a chilled Sunday. Here I was just resetting the odometer. I had actually done a whole video with sound as I was driving, but unfortunately it was too distorted because of how fast I was going. But nah, I wasn't speeding. It's just that there was a lot of wind, so I've had to do a voiceover after. So here I'm just leaving the estate, and I was saying that I drive quite slowly because there are kids here, so I tend to keep my speed below 5 kilometers an hour, just cruising slowly, because you never know, those kids, they ride their bikes, they walk, all that stuff. It's within an estate that has quite a number of people, so just stay safe. And you see here we encountered a car, and if I was going fast, who knows what could have happened. And it's a chilled weekend. The last thing you want on a weekend, or any day for that matter, is just any mishaps. And here I was just saying that comparing the weekend and weekday, I have to say that driving on the weekend is a bit riskier, just because people are more careless, people are speeding more, they are in a hurry to get wherever they're going. And nowadays the roads are not as busy as weekdays, but definitely on weekends the roads are also busy to some extent. So for me, weekdays it's a bit safer than weekends, so just be on the lookout, especially on weekends. Don't put your guard down assuming that yeah, it's a chill weekend. No, that's actually the opposite on Kenyan roads. Here again, I was saying that if you're buying a car, it's good to consider the security of the area that you live in, because at least here I have parking. If you don't have parking that is secure, that is something worth considering, because I've come across quite a number of posts where people say that they had their side mirror stolen and other parts of the car stolen. So, and in a lot of those cases, when you investigate, you find somebody says that they left the car outside, or something of the sort. They had parked somewhere. So whenever you have a car, it's something that you really need to consider in terms of security. Nowadays we know that the roundabouts between Uhuru Highway all the way when you're going to Westlands, people are stealing car parts there when people are stuck in jam. So do you really have to be stuck on that jam, or you can use the expressway? Just asking. You can also just take some steps to protect yourself. But when it comes now to parking is where these thieves tend to take advantage, especially at night. At night, if they find your car parked outside or somewhere that it's not secure, it's easy for them to steal. So please, when you're getting a car, make sure you consider parking. I'd rather you pay 50 shillings or whatever you're paying, just to have somebody look after your car, but don't buy a car without considering where you'll be parking it. Now here we're just heading out from the estate, and I was actually talking about the AC. Now what happened with my AC, it's the one part that I'd say was a bit of an issue with the car. I had to have it repaired, because at one point when I bought it, it was working. I tested everything while I was in Mombasa, it was working, but unfortunately by the time I got to Nairobi, it had malfunctioned, and it was a matter of having the pump repaired. And once it was repaired, it does work, but yeah, it still needs to be looked at. It's something that I'll have it done when I'm doing the next service. So here I was just saying that sometimes when you buy a car, there are some small expenses you'd have to incur when it comes just to sorting out some things, and it's something that you also really need to consider, because again, for most of us, we're buying second-hand cars from Japan, And those cars, as much as they're in good condition, there's some things just by virtue of age that might have become of an issue. So that's something you need to consider. Maybe an AC pump, or maybe a bulb, just some small things. Sometimes it's something that is worth considering. Yeah. Now here we do have a bit of steep bumps, so I just go slowly. And when I've carried more than 3 people, I sometimes have to be quite cautious. But when it gets to the flat road, I'm telling you, this car is a joy to drive. Here again, the road isn't that good just after this junction, so just slowing down as much as possible and just being slow. Now with this car, when I'm going on any pothole or anything like that, I'm as gentle as possible because it is quite low, so you can't afford to bounce it or be harsh. This car, you need to take care of it a bit. And not only this car, I find that for some drivers, it's something that you don't pay attention to, but it's important. Here, this border guy, I don't know what he was doing. I'm telling you, this border guys. But anyway, at least we passed him safely. And as I was saying, it's quite good that you should be considerate of other road users, especially border people and also pedestrians. And on this stretch of road, especially at night or even just dusk, when I'm driving early in the morning to work, sometimes I can't see people properly because there are no street lights. So what I do, I just drive as slow as possible, just to protect all road users against any eventuality. Here, there's no way I was overtaking because there's a junction coming up nearby, and yeah, it's still not a safe place to overtake. And when driving in Nairobi, one thing that I find I have to be constantly doing is just analyzing the various scenarios that I have available to me. So you see, again, if I was overtaking and this guy is going that side, that would have been possibly an accident, who knows. So sometimes patience, as much as it's hard to practice, it's your best bet when it comes to avoiding accidents, just being as patient as possible. Here, there was a pedestrian who was quite close to the road. Again, you just go slowly. If you can avoid any type of altercation with people on the road, I highly recommend you do, and you'll just have a peaceful life here in Nairobi. On this roundabout, when I see matatus and trailers, I'm usually quite cautious, and behind me there was a trailer that was coming up quite fast. So that is where I used this car's torque to my advantage. Sometimes you just need to get yourself out of some funny situations, and that's why I really like this car. When it comes to accelerating, I'm not saying it's a performance car, but some people have tuned theirs, and I'm also thinking of tuning this one maybe to a stage 1. But for now, it's just enjoying it while it's torque. Here I was around 70 without even trying, easy. Then here again, quite slow, because it's a very tricky spot. It's a junction and a stage. Anywhere you see matatu stages, you really have to be quite cautious. And here there were people who were enjoying themselves over the weekend. And again, this just goes to what I was saying. Weekends, people tend to be crazy. You see also this other guy, he wants to join the other side of the road. Weekends, it's quite tricky. So if you can just keep your guard up and be as alert as possible, that's the only solution. Here, I think we hit 120 just like that on this straight stretch of the road. But again, you see people are all over the place doing what they are doing, so you need to be quite cautious. Here, I came across this electric car, and I'm telling you, these cars, they pack a punch. I'm telling you, there's another one that passed me a while back. It was like a bullet. That's model, how they are built, it's just insane in terms of acceleration. Yeah, maybe in the future it's something I might consider, but for electric cars, you really have to also consider your lifestyle and how you operate. Now for me, I might consider an electric car, just given the fact that now in the morning I just drive to work, I can leave it charging, use it in the evening, and yeah. But for somebody who uses their car frequently on a day-to-day basis, I don't think an electric car might be the best option, just given that range. It might be limited depending on how far you go. I think even that's why for Ubers, I haven't seen a lot of electric car Ubers. I have seen this one's called Henry, if I'm not mistaken. But again, for Uber, you know, all those trips you're making, does that car have enough range to basically support you? Who knows? But I don't think it does. Now here I was saying that I cannot speed when there is a junction coming up or a stage. If you want to stay safe, also speeding, you have to speed smartly. I love speed, but I call myself a responsible speeder in the sense that I tend to avoid any risky situations. So here again, there was a stage, there's a bend, there are trailers, there's this lorry on the side of the road. This guy wants to join the road. When you see the road is busy, it's best you just be patient, because again, with too many variables, you can't make the best decision. For my day job, I'm basically a financial risk manager. So I tend to extend those management principles to my day-to-day life. And in all honesty, when it comes to the road, it's about picking, in most times, the least risky scenario. Sometimes it's not the most interesting one, but sometimes, you know, you need to be patient. Here, when that Prado was joining the road, I had to slow down just because of any eventuality, and that guy was actually coming to join this lane. So if he was speeding and he was a bit careless, that would have been an accident. So sometimes when you're driving along these roads in Kenya, what you tend to find is a lot of accidents are caused by impatience, speeding, and just not being alert. So here it's somewhere where I just needed to be quite cautious because it's a black spot. So you see, even there was this trailer that it had stalled somewhere risky. So what I did, I just took my time and went slowly. Now here in front again, there was a matatu that had just joined the road, and I was just weighing my options. Whenever I'm driving, again, I'm just weighing all options, and I tend to take the most boring one because that tends to be the safest one. Now there's this trailer that just came out of nowhere, but I had seen it from my rear view mirror. So what that guy was doing, he was just freewheeling the car, and he could have caused an accident there. Thankfully, I was alert. I just gave him as much space as possible and I slowed down, and nothing bad happened. Here again, we were just going slowly because it was now a hill, and sometimes again, I'm saying you have to take the boring option, and here the boring option was just waiting for the perfect opportunity to overtake. And don't rush, don't be in a rush. Today it was just enjoying a smooth drive, so it was not about being insane or anything. And as you can see here, we got our opportunity finally once we passed that one trailer, and this guy who was speeding for no reason, yeah, we just passed him like that. This matatu, I think here we got to around 120, just like that. Again, it was a polite day. I'm telling you, this diesel, it does pack a punch, and it's quite enjoyable, especially on the open highway. Again, whenever you get near trailers, it's best to slow down a bit. You never know what might happen, and sometimes these people just might not see you. And in terms of safety, what I live by is being predictable. Basically is just the best way to protect yourself. It's the first step when it comes to road safety. Here, I was just ranting about how you need to be careful and calculative. You know, you just can't drive without being cautious, and whenever you're overtaking, just have both hands on the steering wheel. Give yourself as much control as you can over the car. So yeah, sometimes you can drive with one hand, but if you're overtaking or driving fast, it's just best to have both hands on the steering wheel that 9-3 position, just to give yourself as much control over the car as possible. And yeah, just indicating. So whenever I was overtaking, I was also indicating. And yeah, what I'm saying is that safe driving isn't the most exciting. It's actually quite boring sometimes, but yeah, that is what it takes to be safe here in Nairobi. If you want excitement, you can go for these track events, the TT Masingas and the likes. I'm sure there are also other controlled environments where you can race a car, but on the highway, you really have to be considerate because it's public and it's not designed for people driving like maniacs. So here I was just going to stop in front at Lukman petrol station, and it was just cruising. I wasn't in a hurry, just enjoying the day. I had rolled down the windows as well as opened the sunroof, so it was just chilling and enjoying. And again, one thing that you'll notice when driving on Nairobi roads, a lot of people do not obey lane discipline. Case in point, this trailer, it's not supposed to be on that side of the road, given that it's going quite slowly. So unless overtaking, it's best to keep to the left side of the road. But unfortunately, especially for these large cars, a lot of them tend not to obey that. If they did, I'm telling you, driving would be much safer. But I think culturally, as Kenyans, when it comes to driving, we are not the most disciplined. So you have to employ extra measures to stay as safe as possible. Because yeah, you might be doing everything right, but given that we're sharing this road, if somebody makes a mistake, then yeah, unfortunately, that might involve you negatively, and the highway is so unforgiving. So let's just stay as safe as possible. Here again, whenever you see cars parked on the side of the road, I just tend to be as cautious as possible. You say that guy was risking quite a bit because that's another junction and somebody can just come without seeing you or sees you late, and it's just a nasty accident. But yeah, the main thing is when you're driving, analyze all scenarios, look around and take the safest and most boring, and if you can, use your car's acceleration just to get you out of funny situations. That's why I like the Axela. If I didn't go for the Axela, I think I'd have gone for GTI. I think it was quite close between those two, but I had owned a Golf before, so I just wanted a change. Sometimes a change is good, and to be honest, when it comes to peace of mind in terms of just day-to-day running of the car, I have to say Axelas are generally more easier to live with compared to German cars. German cars, they're fun to drive, they have a lot of features that are quite practical, but to some extent, especially the ones that we have here in Kenya, being second-hand cars, you just tend to find some issues. And when it comes to German cars, if you found an owner who wasn't taking care of that car, it can really punish you. And it's just small things. So case in point, let me give you an example. For this Axela, sometimes the sensor gets a bit messed up and there's some funny warning lights that tend to come on the screen. But once I turn on and turn off the car, they're gone. Comparing that to a German car, when a German car has a light on the dashboard, in most cases you'll have to do some sort of diagnosis. And yeah, it's just a whole event. I'm not saying that happens often, but just Japanese cars have that simplicity to them that German cars don't have. But German cars they have a spot in my heart, and I'll definitely go back to German. I'm thinking of SQ5 later on, but for now, let's just enjoy this Axela as much as possible. If you're thinking of the Axela, you might also consider maybe a Nissan Note if you want to save some money. The Honda Fit, those ones are cheaper than the Axela, and I'd say honestly, from a practicality point of view, the only reason I got the Axela was for the torque. and also the fact that it suited my lifestyle in terms of having the economical diesel, given the amount of kilometers I cover on a daily basis going to and from work. So it really worked for me. If it works for you, it's something that you can consider. But if you also prefer saving a bit of money, you can consider those smaller cars. Or if you have a bit more money, you can go for a GTI. The Atenza, I'm not too much sold on it, but it is worth considering. It's just the fact that they have the same engine with this one. Perhaps if it had a more powerful, I know it has the 2500 petrol engine, which it does pack a punch, but I just prefer going for another option at that price range. Anyway, this is where I got to, and I just took a bit of a break before going back. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes as we turn around and head back. Here, let's head back. I'll just look for somewhere to turn so that we can head back. This is just a polite drive just to show you guys how it is inside of the car. And if you're considering getting this car, as I was saying, for people who prefer saving a bit of money, you can go a bit lower. But if you want performance, I don't think you can go wrong with this car. I call it the poor man's GTI just because it's a bit cheaper. But let's see in the future when I do a stage 1 how that will be, if it will give enough power. But for now, we're just keeping it stock, and it's been quite enjoyable so far. Now here, when I go to join the highway, I'm as patient as possible, to be honest. I'm those type of drivers who can spend 1 minute when it comes to junctions. Sinanga haraka. I know some people, they are quite impatient, and the smallest opportunity they just join the road. But I find that this is quite a sensitive area where you can easily cause an accident, so it just pays to be patient, honestly. If you've noticed by now, my theme is, when it comes to safety, you have to be boring as possible on the highway until you just get the proper chance. Once you get the proper chance, you can just knock yourself out. And here, once I got the chance, I just joined the highway safely, both for me and for the car and for all other road users. And now, given that I have a nice stretch of road, I can accelerate as much as I want and just enjoy the open highway. So sometimes that patience is quite good. And unfortunately, now with this Mombasa Road, there's no other area to turn once we passed those turnings at the back. I'll just have to look for a bit of a dusty road so that I can turn. But here it's just cruising. This road takes you all the way to Mombasa. When you get ahead, you'll also get to Machakos Junction, where you can go to Machakos and proceed to Kitui, where I'm from. That's the route that we use when we're going up country. You can also use the Thika roadway, but that's a bit long. I prefer using this one, and it was just a chill day. This road does tend to get a bit tricky, especially due to the trailers. Whenever you see trailers and canters and those big cars, just be as careful as possible, because they tend to limit visibility, meaning if anyone makes a mistake, it can be quite costly. So I avoid going very fast when I see these lorries and canters around me. Just be cautious. Here in front, it's just lovely sceneries. Kenya is quite beautiful. I had also gone to Kitonga Gardens. I did a video on another channel. I'll just leave that link below, and it was just showing how beautiful Kenya was. Here I'm looking for a place to turn off, and I remember that the place I needed to turn off was just after this flyover here. And again, thankfully, on a weekend, there are not so many cars on the road, and I indicated early. I was just cruising. just cruising, being as predictable as possible. But once we start going back, I also feel that I'll need to just test the car so that we can burn off any carbon and just accelerate it quite properly. So sometimes it's good just to give your car that proper run, just to make sure that it's functioning as well as it should be. And yeah, here is where we were turning, just polite, being as predictable as possible. And since this is a bit of a tricky area, I was not speeding and I waited for the road to be as clear as possible for as long as possible. So I wasn't in any hurry, I was just patient. So I just waited and waited until the road was clear, all these cars passed, and when I got my opportunity, that is when I was able to join the road. And you can see here, when the wheels are turned, the I stop feature will not work. So that I stop feature, it needs the steering wheel to be straight for it to work. So when you're turning and there's traffic, yeah, that car is not going to activate that I stop function. And here I was just testing the car a bit, to see how it was doing on high speeds. And yeah, let's just say the car was cruising quite well. When I got close to these trailers, again I slowed down, just didn't want any mishaps with these guys. Better safe than sorry. And yeah, the journey back, it was also uneventful. I managed to get home safely, and yes, that was a polite drive along with the Mazda Axela. And whenever I'm coming home on this hill, I do like testing out the torque a bit. It's quite fun, honestly. Having a car with torque is fun, and given that this is a diesel, once the engine is warmed up and I've also saved up a bit of fuel, I can have some fun. That's what I really like about this car. It gives you that balance of fun and also being economical and just practical to a limited extent. Not that much, but for most of us it will be sufficient to what you need to do. Here again, I was just heading home, uneventful. So yeah, I can call it a day. That was just a polite drive in the Mazda Axela. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.